What's up, Joe?
Hey, man. Doing great. How about you?
Good. Trying to get the pizza out of my teeth.
Yeah, I'm doing a quick double check myself.
I'm not going to smile today.
What, is that what you call it? Silent?
Is there anything to smile about?
I don't know. I mean, all the equities are up. I mean, everything looks, pretty good to me right now. I mean,
Wow.
I see, ETH was almost to 1,200. It's backed off to like 1,170. I mean, that's like, when you look at it from that 897 or whatever, wick bottom, 881.56 on Binance. It's made a nice $315 odd move. So,
Nice.
that's 33% since late June 17th.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
the question is what comes next? That's ETH. But the question is what comes next, obviously. I don't know, man. I see a lot of kind of encouraging signs, but
I got a few things.
What
We
do you got for us?
have a guest today
Oh, that's right.
coming on.
Shaun.
Shaun, my favorite maximalist. So Bitcoin maximalist. So we're going to chat a little bit about his thoughts on where the market's going to, because he's also a brilliant, experienced trader of the Bitcoins. But JP Morgan came out yesterday and said that the record stablecoin market share points to crypto upside.
Yeah, I saw that too. That's good.
Yeah, that's great. This percentage of stablecoins in the total market cap has been growing recently, hitting new all-time highs. The rapid share of stablecoins like Tether may point to an upcoming crypto upside, according to the analysts at the American investment bank, JP Morgan Chase. So
what does that mean, everyone? It just means that people moved into stables, sat on the sidelines, but they didn't move them off the exchanges. So they didn't go back to fiat world. They're still sitting there. They're ready to pounce.
Yep, absolutely. As I have been. That's been my approach to this situation. So
once you got up from your technical knockout on the mat, that one?
That
I know. Everybody learns. You learn eventually, man. I swear.
Now, look, I took some hits in January, but had enough sense to get most the fuck out. So, except for some Ethereum I'm sitting on, and of course some Alchemix that I don't care about it bleeding out. By the way, I'm getting. I should pull that up. Spooky. Let's check in today and see if it's still paying what it was paying. Spooky. The Phantom GALCX pool, by the way, where I am living, is 122.43%. So I got, and you're getting Boo, and you have to restake them. But I got no problem adding to my FTM and GALCX stack. At 122%. Both of those are tokens I think are way undervalued and have bright futures. So for me,
so everybody pile in and kill Brad's yield.
Yeah, that's it.
Stop shilling, Brad. Stop shilling.
That's okay. I want to share the love. Look, I'd be happy at like 30% at that with those tokens. Yeah. So for me, that's like, it's a no fucking brainer. You know what I mean? So,
well, Boo's at a nice bottom of the range right now. I mean, it's stable. It's one of the top two dexes, or whatever you want to call them, exchanges, dexes, AMMs, whatever's going on there on Phantom.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can't go wrong here.
No. Well, you could, but.
Well, I mean, you can't go wrong unless you're talking about macro risk.
Yeah.
You're talking about execution risk, which is what I always talk about. Boo has executed so far. So why not?
Yep. Absolutely. The UK has scrapped plans to monitor unhosted digital wallets. So that's a really good sign. They basically said, look, for security purposes, we shouldn't try to be doing this. And it's, I assume they figured out it was next to impossible to fucking do. But for the purposes of it, right? The honest folks are going to, do whatever reporting they have to do of their wallet address, and then they'll get, they would get tracked. But the people they're trying to catch aren't going to tell them their wallet address. So, it's just stupid. So anyway, they they went through the process, talked to experts, got the input that they needed, and decided, okay, this is stupid. We're not doing it. So I think that's a really good sign on the regulatory front. I hope the U.S. Understands this well enough to make sense of it. If Elizabeth Warren's doing it, it won't matter. But sensible analytical logic won't matter. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully,
Wow.
hopefully the UK is setting the standard for the rest of the world. We'll find out soon enough. So I don't know. Let me see what else I had today. Did I have anything else interesting? You know what? Before Shaun gets on, I had this up yesterday about population, which I'm no economist, so that's painfully obvious to everyone. Eamon said, haha, I wish I'd pulled out to stables. Yeah, sorry, dude. I just I decided after the burns from Snow Dog and Wonderland and even Ohm to some extent that it was time to GTFO. So I did. Like I said, I still got some ETH and Alchemix going on, and I'm buying a little Phantom.
As well. You got Phantom too. So.
Yeah, and all of those I feel good about. So, so this is really interesting and something I never had really. I mean, I hear people talk about population demographics and how they impact the economy, but I'd never really looked at it. And Farmer D Brown on Twitter did this series of posts about what's happening with the economy and what's going to happen to countries that have older populations. So it says in rich countries, under 65s have peaked, and the 75 plus age cohort will double over the next 20 years, growing by 1 billion people. They are wealthy, they want health, and they vote. He says demographic projections for low-income countries are very different, and this will lead to a major wealth shift. They may be poor now, but their education levels are growing. They have access to the internet, and digital assets will provide them with rapid access to the banking that a lot of them don't have right now. He said in the 80s, it was feared that Japan would eventually overtake the US in GDP. Their economy was unstoppable. But in the 90s, their asset bubble burst and never recovered. Why? Demographics. Before the 90s, Japan had declining levels of kids and old people versus working population. But in the 90s, the ratio of old people versus working people crossed 0.2 and began to rapidly increase. The result is less taxes and more expenses, and this produces a headwind for an economy. China's economic miracle is also coming to an end. Old people over 65 versus working people 20 to 64 will cross 0.2% in 2025, and the older generation in China isn't rich, so they will be a heavy burden on society. This trend is irreversible and economically devastating. The U.S. now has a ratio of 0.25 old versus working people, but this ratio isn't growing as fast as China's, and the boomers in the West are rich from stocks and property. For now, laughing out loud emoji. Still, the best demographic days for the U.S. are in the past, increasing headwinds from here. The developing countries with the best demographics is actually India, and I predict that over the next 20 years, it will offer great investment opportunities. The main thing that could hurt India is climate change and climate refugees from Bangladesh. India's literacy levels are going parabolic, and so is their access to the internet, yet they still have 742 million people that are offline. So there's huge room for growth right at a time when digital assets are maturing into banking 2.0 and Web 3. Without a question, shifting demographics will have a radical impact on the wealth of nations moving forward. The developed world has the easy days behind it. How do you think the shifting demographics will play out? How do you think shifting demographics are going to play out, Joe?
Well, I feel like a lot of this has been talked about for a long time. I like the India thing. When I was doing all the work in China, we were always comparing India to China. And, what we came across was China centralized, India decentralized, but in ways where I think there's like 900 and something languages in India. And there's no really like organized, centralized, mantra there going on. And so they can never quite get organized enough to get that kind of growth that they need. And I think it's just like an example was like when you were like in China, when you were, let's just say, tipping somebody or something like that, paying licensing fees, it was one person to deal with.
Right.
And, they were the facilitator. That's the way it is in the Mideast too. And they move everything through. But in India, you would go like you'd be at the mayor's office or something like that. And, tips are changing hands, but the whole friggin' town shows up at the side door. And like every relative's coming through. So you don't have one centralized person to influence. You have like hundreds. So I just don't know. I see India as having, I mean, I like India, don't get me wrong, but I see it as it's still got a ways to go. I still look at, Southeast Asia as probably the best growth models, what we used to call, what were they, like the little tigers or something like that?
Right.
I think they're still going real well. And I remember the Japanese stuff, of course, their aging demographic issue. And, one thing and then in China, I've been talking about the China stuff forever, that is their implosion, that
Right.
their seniors have no money and they're paid for by their kids.
Yep.
And so, that is a $3 trillion liability sitting there, just right there. So, I mean, lots of issues in the US, I feel fortunate and in Europe that everybody, I guess, is doing pretty well off that's old. And
relatively speaking,
they do vote.
Yep.
So, but how long does that last? I don't know. It seems in this country, most people seem to be, it seems like everybody makes it to their 80s these days.
Yeah.
If you have access to healthcare and things like that and reasonable, income or asset bases.
Yep.
But
both my parents are in their 80s.
Yeah. So I find that kind of intriguing. But yeah, you got to take care of look, it's a market that has been in our youth culture. It's been shunted to the side a lot because it's all about the youngins. But, that's where all the asset value is. So, you think about models where how do you, business models and stuff where how do you get at that money in ways that's beneficial to them? How do you do things with them? So, and they're all, a lot of them here are super educated too. So it's not like they're detriments. They have stuff they can do. So I find it intriguing. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, look, on the U.S. itself, I think we'll see massive growth in, senior communities where they have healthcare and they also have, a feeling of independence. We have condos like that all over the place here in Miami, from, middle class up to luxury levels. I think those are all going to be places that investments make a lot of sense, activities for them. Healthcare, exercise. Obviously, healthcare is huge and always will be, especially here in South Florida. So, I think there's a lot of money to be made in that space targeting older people. Of course, you've got to have a business that can revert when they all start dying off, but whatever.
Or something that is active in that life cycle part of like 60 to 50, 55 to 90. So there's always a steady amount coming through.
That's true.
I don't know what it is. I'm just saying, I think it's an untapped market.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in terms of India, I actually have, I agree that there are problems in India still, and that there are issues for them to overcome. But of any country in the world kind of developing, I feel really strong things for India. I've worked with a lot of Indians over the years in tech, and they're really starting to, go from being the back office to being the front office, to being the startups, to being the tech players. And we talked previously about the fact that when India was trying to clamp down on cryptocurrencies, how stupid that was, because there were so many startups in the cryptocurrency space doing well. Just look at Polygon, look at Define. All of these are Indian-based firms that are growing and exploding and doing beautifully. And I think it was a harmful thing to do to the tech industry there, but I think they've pulled back from that. I think that growth curve of people skipping kind of landline internet straight into cellular and mobile, and then being able to be banked in crypto, that bodes incredibly well for a growth base in DeFi. The fact that there will be all these people coming online that previously weren't banked, that will need a place for money because they're more educated and they're making more. That to me is a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. So I think there are big problems as well potentially, but I think that the opportunity is huge if they run right. Now, if they keep electing, people that aren't very nice, it might cause them some problems, but we'll see what happens.
Well, they got that big old problem there.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that? I think if I remember right, they're still the country with the most, they have the Hindu Islamic thing, but they're the country that has the most Muslims, I think, of any country in the world. Maybe Indonesia might have more, but I think it's still India.
Yep.
And it's a minority population of 450 million. So you've got 700 million Hindus and another 5 or 6 million, 100 million Islamic folk, and that's a clash of civilizations too.
Yep.
So they got that big issue. But I agree. I think that if you could harness the youth demographic in India, which is, like you said, where all the action is. I mean, the only problem is that there's just not enough opportunities for everybody. Yeah. There's like too many people. But maybe this type of stuff does give them a way to leverage that sort of crowd or that group in a way that helps them build assets and scales them up. So I'm all for it. I mean, if I had to pick who's going to be the stronger country in 50 years, I would say India India versus China. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say India because they got all the things you need that keep you out of authoritarian inefficiencies.
Yep. So, all right, we got our guest.
Oh, all right.
Shaun is with us. How are you, buddy?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, doing great, man. Doing great. I never realized how much you look like Willie Nelson, dude.
Hopefully, I don't end up with the same tax issues. I just say that.
Where in the world are you today?
I'm in Dublin today, Dublin, Ireland, sunny Dublin.
Sunny Dublin. Awesome, man. That's great. That's great. What do you think about India before we get off that topic?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, India has, I spent some time out there and like it's got, I'm kind of more betting on Africa in the long term, to be honest.
Nice.
I mean, they've got kind of, lots of political issues, but they got resources, both human and otherwise.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I probably won't live that long to see any of this stuff change. I do like the retirement home advice, though. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. We got plenty here if you want to come on out.
Yeah, they start at 55 plus.
Shush.
Let me give you a little background for everybody. Shaun and I are connected through my company with my partners, Material Indicators. And Shaun has always provided unbelievable guidance and analysis in our community. We have a community of about 6,800 people. And Shaun is one of the originals and one of the guys who's always been there. Not only that, helping to maintain order as well, I think, but always has a pretty positive, I don't mean you always think everything's positive in the market, but I think you always have a very positive approach to interacting with people and communicating with people. Despite the fact that you and I have gotten into a few stuff ups here and there about maximalism.
I'm here to explain my views, Brad.
I know, and I'm excited for that. I really am excited for that. So Shaun is a vital member of the community, but he's got years of wisdom in markets, and specifically with a heavy emphasis on Bitcoin and trading in Bitcoin. I'm going to let you tell us, Shaun, kind of what your background is and everything. But he's also, from my perspective, there are a lot of people that kind of label themselves as Bitcoin maximalists that aren't incredibly rational, analytical, or logical in their approach to these discussions. And I have always found Shaun to be somebody open-minded and willing to talk. And while he has strong viewpoints, not someone who's quite as toxic, shall we say, as others are in the space. So Shaun, could you give us a little introduction of yourself, your background, and your background in the trading and what you've been up to? And then I'm going to hit you up for your point of view on the market currently after you do that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of always been in the technical game, I guess. I as a kid going through college, I kind of got into working for some rock bands and that nearly took me off into a different world. But as a kid, I wrote a couple of computer games that were published. And so I was always into the technical side. I joined a pretty large engineering company a long time ago, and ended up kind of traveling the world with them, primarily in the old black gold business. So spent a lot of time in the States, the Middle East, and in Colombia and so on, and ended up running pretty large division of that company. Then in '99, I moved back to Ireland. I was in Houston, moved back to Ireland, and kind of that was, you guys know this very well, the dot-com boom was going on. So I kind of got more into startups, advising startups and helping startups out and burning money with them. And that went on back then. And then kind of played that game for a while. And I kind of got into crypto. Like, I was real lucky. I got into Bitcoin in 2010. So
wow.
Yeah, I kind of looked at it. I looked at this thing. My young fella actually said, "Here, you should look at this." And I went, "Well, look, this is clearly ridiculous." I'd love to say that, from the beginning I was going to go, I'm going to be a trillionaire. Blah, bullshit. Yeah, I just went. This is magic internet money. This is clearly never going out anywhere. But I turned on a computer, okay, and back then it wasn't even called mining, it was called hashing. So I turned on a computer, ran a node which used to do what we now call mining, and built up a stack. And again, a lot of the misconception, I think, about people who've been in this space, and I'll come back to it, is that at that time I wasn't doing that because I thought Bitcoin was going to hit $100, never mind 100K laser eyes. I was doing it because I thought it was a politically interesting project, and I viewed it as donating some computer time. Literally.
Nice.
These guys are clearly like idiots, but I like their views. So I just turned on this computer, and that's where I got involved. And I was a miner from 2010 through to 2018. So I was kind of, did a big upgrade to, God, what were the Antminer S5s? It's all flooding back. 2013, then S7s. And then in a stunning read of the market in 2017, I built a massive GPU farm to mine shitcoins. Stroke of fucker. This is why nobody should listen to me. Okay? And I was shitcoining away quite happily. And then the market did its thing. And that's where I went, maybe I should actually learn to try and read markets. And so that's where I got into trading. And I guess anybody who's in the MI and has to suffer through my inane posts will always get this thing. And this is where I wanted to come to, is, how do you, what is a maximalist, and why do people like me become maximalists, other than running a shitcoin mine will definitely
we'll push you straight into it.
But even ignoring that, because once you start to think of the game, and remember, this for me, this was completely part-time up to 2017, and it's been what I do 100% of the time since. Okay, so right. Everything, my entire thing is crypto since then. And what I do now, because I'm gonna circle back, so. Like I'm primarily kind of, I guess people call it a market maker, although not in the way that crypto views market makers as somebody running your stops. It's liquidity provision onto exchanges. I do that, algorithmically. I kind of throw around my own stack by clicking buttons, and I run algos for some of the larger funds out there, Bitcoin only. That's kind of what I do. And I spend a lot of time talking shit in the MI group. That's kind of would be a summary of my I watch you guys, and I am a keen observer in the space, and I have some NFT exposure because it kind of fascinates me a little bit. But if I was to come back and say, like, why have I ended up where which I calculated 2 days ago, 99.97% of my net worth is in Bitcoin.
Damn.
Okay,
damn.
so
that's hardcore.
and how did I come here? Because I had to do some searching questions when I realized that. And fundamentally, joking aside, I mean, you begin, once you get exposure to this space, you can begin asking questions. And I'm going to say right out front that to me, everything other than Bitcoin is a shitcoin. And I'm not even referring to Ethereum. I'm referring to dollar, yen, euro, property, money, everything. And I'm trying to explain and so, okay, it's a derogatory term, but it's just a term we use in the space.
Sure.
Okay. And so then, you begin to go, look, for me, money is just the tokenization of my productivity. Okay, so I do something and the tokenization of any rewards on risk I get.
Right, okay? Makes sense.
And, whether that's me flipping burgers and getting paid in dollars, or, writing a patent for the fork and getting paid in my royalties in yen, ultimately, it's just the tokenization of my productivity. And if I'm very fortunate, it could very well be a tokenization of the productivity of prior generations if I had a trust fund, which I don't. Anyway, but ultimately, when you begin to think in these terms, and then you begin to go, okay, cool, that's fine. What do I want from this thing? What are my fundamental requirements on this tokenization of my productive life? And I came down to some really simple, basic rules that have 5 rules that have the asset in question, again, whether that's a house, a painting, Ethereum, Bitcoin, or whatever, didn't tick these 5 boxes. I just wasn't interested. And I've had to write them down because, fundamentally, the first thing and the big problem with the fiat system is, a known and unchangeable monetary policy. So in other words, when I decide to buy this token, and again, forget Bitcoin, whatever it is, I need to know what the inflation or deflation of that is into the future. Okay, right. And that cannot just be arbitrarily changed by somebody with power.
Okay.
Okay, so whether that's the token is printing 1 billion new tokens a day or burning them at a 25% a day, I just need to know the ground rules.
Right. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, because then I can, when I buy the money, I'm going, okay, there's no inflation, it's the money. Okay.
Sure.
I want, and again, this is because everybody talks about decentralization, but I can need to kind of give you some views now, and shut me up at any time, everybody.
Oh no, keep going. You're great.
I want the option for self-custody. Okay. I want to be able to take custody for this. A lot of the time, I actually don't want the custody. I don't trust myself enough, or I don't want everything, but I want the option for self-custody. In the same way, to go back to the money, I go, look, I can stick it in a bank, in a vault, or I can hang it on my wall, whatever. Give me the option. And this is where I want accessibility in time and space, which sounds a bit Star Trek. Okay, but what I mean by that is that if the zombies invade Dublin and I have to flee to Kazakhstan, okay, I want to be able to access this tokenization of my productivity in Kazakhstan.
Nice.
And that's what I mean by in space. And when I say in time, I mean in the future. So I've kind of hoovered up all of this tokenization of whatever silliness I've done in my life. And I want to be able to access that in 10 years, 20 years, and in 30 years.
Nice.
Okay. I want fungibility. And this is where things like the money begin to fall apart. Yeah. I want to be able to, it cannot be non-fungible. So if you take, other things, other asset classes like property, well, I can't transfer that in space. It doesn't tick the box. It's non-fungible. Although I suppose I could sell, a little bit, but so on. And finally, the final requirement I have for this tokenization of my life, this sad tokenization of my life, is I want to be able to put it to use. Okay, that means I want to be able to actually go out and buy my cigarettes and my food, okay, and everything else in my life. Okay, I want the ability to earn yield with it. Okay, and ultimately, I might want the ability to use it as collateral against the loan. And so, basically when I look at, and again, I'm not getting into the, shitcoin versus Bitcoin thing, but I'm going to look, here's, for me, 5 I'm sure I've missed a few very basic things that if I'm going to put this tokenization of my life into something, I want these 5 boxes to be ticked.
Sure, makes sense.
Because and then this is where the maximalist in me comes out, because I go, there's a reason 99.97% of my net worth is in Bitcoin, not because I'm a psycho, which I could be, or I'm crazy, or or I love risk. It's that there is no other asset class outside of crypto, inside of crypto. There is no other asset that gives me my 5 requirements. And
so go ahead.
That's how you come to this position I'm in, which is going, you know, that's my requirement from the place that I store my productive life.
Yeah. No, I think, look, that's an awesome set of criteria. What was this something that kind of, I mean, I know you put it together for talking about it, but do you think this is kind of something that's been underlying, you know, for the last 4 or 5 years, your approach to things?
Yeah, I mean, what I liked about Bitcoin at the beginning, long before that there were other cryptos, was none of this. And like, you know, and again, I'll circle back to it. What I liked about Bitcoin is that my understanding of its purpose was the separation of state and money.
Right.
In the same way we've had the separation of state and religion. And I viewed this as something that was clearly not going to happen, and certainly not by a bunch of, you know, crypto nerds in a dark corner of the internet. But in general, was a good idea. Okay.
Sure.
So I kind of went, yeah, actually, yeah, fuck it. Yeah, why should the government or anybody control money? So that's where I started. But I'd never questioned money when I grew up. Yeah. You know, when I went
who knows? Yeah. People don't
when
even
I
know
went
it.
to work for, you know, wherever I was, you know, they handed me my tokens every month, and I was happy. And that was money to me. And one of the things where I would say that whatever happens to Bitcoin and crypto or whatever, that I think we've won is because the next generation are actually questioning what money is, which is something that, to be honest, I doubt very many of my generation did.
Yeah.
So I kind of see this as game 1.
Yeah.
And
I didn't question it. I didn't question it until I was in my 50s. So, you know.
Yeah, now I'm just in the business of getting a better retirement home. So or a more fun funeral or whatever. I don't know.
So in your mind, when we talk about other projects, when we talk about decentralized finance, when we talk about other tokens, Ethereum, Monero, whatever, in your mind, nothing can hit all 5 of these except Bitcoin is your approach to this.
And again, I extend that beyond crypto.
Sure.
My euro can't, my dollar can't, my property can't.
Right.
You know, my investment in the stock market can't. None of these things so hit it. And again, and by the way, on the toxicity side, I really got to, because like I've been on and off Twitter. I'm not a big poster. I post occasionally to you, Brad.
Sure.
We're mates. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay. But I think a lot of the toxicity is a lot more to do with the nature of Twitter than anything else. Yeah, I think Twitter is basically just a cesspool of toxicity on any
abomination.
Yeah. And I've got to say, the more I've got involved, the more toxic I find myself, and I have to pull myself back and going, no, you're not that asshole.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I have many tweets like that. Yeah, absolutely.
So kind of that's it. You know, it's a very simple approach. And then, okay, you know, and then, you know, the kind of, you know, 5, and I'm sure I've missed a few, you know, points to me that are where I decide to put my value. Okay, somebody else could have 10 and they're completely different, but for me, these are 5, they're rational. And layered out of that, and then under that, you begin to get into issues like decentralization and why nothing on proof of stake could ever tick these boxes. So like this is kind of, you know, base requirement, but underneath that, okay, you begin, if you adopt this and if you think it through, you begin to rule out most things. Now, look, I have a soft spot for Monero. Yeah, I'm gonna lie. I've got my zombie Monero stack. I'm holding it till it's fucking 0. Okay. It is a beautifully failed experiment to me. Yeah.
That's hilarious. I've been hearing more and more people talk about Monero lately.
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to, like, what I loved about Monero, because the thing that a lot of noobs miss about Bitcoin is there's a difference between being anonymous and private.
Right. Absolutely.
And there's a huge difference between being anonymous and private. And for me, Monero was an experiment in how much people value privacy. And the answer was not a lot.
No. They say they do, but when it comes to actually doing the work of privacy,
I mean, I'm going to admit, I'm the same. When I'm signing up to something, I'll click yes.
Yeah, of course. Of course, we all do. Absolutely.
But that's how you end up with something like me, is, what's termed a maximalist, is just going, look, there are these basic requirements and nothing. And this is where I begin to sound like an evangelist. But this is, if I thought that there was some other asset class inside or outside of crypto, okay, that could offer me these 5 requirements and give me some way to balance my portfolio, trust me, man, I wouldn't be 99.97% in Bitcoin. I'm not a complete fucking idiot.
Well, and I think
I am. Who knows?
and that's one of the things, that I always have respected about you, is you are never afraid to take a look at the alternatives that might be coming along and decide for yourself based on your criteria whether or not they fit your criteria. And I think that's and I think one of the problems that I see in the Bitcoin maxi space that makes you different is that for a lot of people it becomes a belief system, not an analytical or logical system whereby you have your criteria. For them it is all about, it's just Bitcoin and I can't look at anything else, right? And you're a different breed from that.
But I mean, to give a slight counterpoint to that, and again, I'm not arguing for the toxicity. I think the platform, there are toxic people.
Sure,
they exist. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they exist in Ethereum. They exist.
Yeah, they exist if you're debating, I don't know, which is the best bread in the world.
Exactly.
Toxic people exist. Yeah, and I think a lot of the toxicity is more to do with the platform than the people. But there is also, if you're a long-term Bitcoiner, the roll of the eyes moment when you go, oh, look, this is just another technical masturbation going on about this, that, and the other, and the fundamentals are missing, and blah, blah. And again, I'm not trying to offend anybody, although I partly do. I'm trying to go that, if you stick around the space long enough, you do kind of get the roll of the eyes moments where you go, oh, God, what dog coin, or what's the next cycle, or because the other thing that I am, other than having made a very firm decision on how I want to tokenize my productivity, which is only Bitcoin, and I'm going to be clear, if something better or the same or even a little marginally less gives me the opportunity to diversify, I will.
Yeah, makes sense.
But to date, I haven't seen it, so I do look around. But we're also, we're all market participants, and the market is a combat sport.
Yes.
Yeah? It's not a fucking prayer meeting. Okay.
No.
So, like, it is literally a contact. It's an adversarial by nature. So, when you're in a market participant, which I am, then by definition, which most people are, again, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, we're all in the business of taking money from other people.
That's a good point. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. When you examine other things, other projects, other tokens, have there been moments where you've thought, oh shit, this gets so fucking close and it just doesn't measure up?
Two coins I looked at very heavily in the last cycle were Haven and Raven. There's no interlinked, or maybe I'm just in kind of rhyming shit. Raven I liked as a platform for tokenization, and Haven as a platform for offshore banking, should we say?
Privacy.
Kind of a better version of Monero, but I mean, Haven went through its whole, they got off their pants down, and Raven is Raven, but I am very, very, I'm going to be absolutely strict. If it's proof of stake, it fails my fundamental test. I can rule it out completely. And again, I'm not saying that to be controversial. I'm simply saying that The problem with proof of stake is the ability to capture. And again, I go back to point one. And point one is, I don't need somebody changing the rules of the game once I'm in.
Right.
Because that is just the shit that we have in the moment when the Fed sit down, or the ECB or whomever, and go, fuck it, let's create 1 trillion more of these tokens and effectively devaluing mine. So I'm not trying to say, it's that level of uncertainty makes it not an option for me. Now,
Makes sense.
You can trade the shit out of these things, yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely. You can trade the shit out of all of these things, and again, some of the more controversial statements, which I'm kind of happy to repeat. I mean, at a fundamental level, I do see no difference between Ethereum and BitConnect. Okay. On that, I had to get that in there. Okay. On the basis that none of them, the rules can change. Yeah.
Sure. No, I get.
And have changed. It's not that it's a theoretical thing. The monetary policy of it is changed, and then I have to look at the process for change and how it changes and the move to proof of stake. And I thought, and again, I mined a shit ton of Ethereum back in the day. Yeah. We had 4,000 GPUs mining Ethereum in 2017.
Damn.
Okay. So it's not like I didn't play the game. I was a believer. Yeah. Genuinely, I went world supercomputer, whatever the narrative. So it's not, your views evolve in this whole space and on money. And again, I think that's important, what money is and what you need from money, which is very personal. My needs are different than your needs, different than Joe's needs or anybody else's out there. So I become a maximalist on the basis of my basic requirements for money. And I have seen nothing to date. Doesn't mean there isn't out there, and Bitcoin isn't fucking perfect. It's not, it's not the son of God or anything like this. If Bitcoin was perfect, they would have stopped developing it. They haven't. Okay, so, but it's, for me, the best and only real choice for my personal requirements for money.
If you were around in, I don't know, 5 years and
it's questionable, but go on. You mean around and cogent? These are two different things.
Oh yeah. And the proposal to increase the supply of Bitcoin because tokens for miners run out eventually, et cetera, et cetera. What would you do if it looked like that was going to be implemented?
Oh, I'd sell. I'll be gone.
Yeah.
I'll find something somewhere else to bit. But it's not fundamental. I mean, why would I? This is the bit I don't understand. Okay, if I'm trading, I'm trading. Yeah. Like I do fucking 10,000 trades a day on all my algos. Okay. I mean that's a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at the tokenization of my life's productivity. Okay, putting the value of that. Okay, and there's lots of risk to value. Bitcoin can go up and down. Any asset can go up and down. Okay, but I still have to pick the one that I think represents my requirements most. So if somebody comes along and proposes there's a bit to go, we're going to quadruple supply and this, that, and the other, that got adopted, that's the end for me because it's broken rule one.
Got it.
Yeah, rule one is I need to know the fucking rules. Yeah, I need to know inflationary, deflationary, it doesn't matter a shit. Just tell me what the rules are going forward and tell me that they can't be changed.
Right. But I mean, they could be changed for Bitcoin, but it's less likely. It's less likely.
I think that is because again, there's a lot of misunderstanding around how protocol changes were made in Bitcoin. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about the power of the miners. And it's very nuanced, and it's not as simple as people like the miners have no power over the protocol, none. Okay, so the miners don't get to decide what to do, and that point was, and I won't go into a long kind of diatribe on how consensus is reached in Bitcoin, but I would strongly suggest for anybody just with a curious interest in the space. And with trying to understand how Bitcoin consensus actually works, just read the block size wars. When the miners went off and tried to increase the block size.
Right.
Okay. They failed. Miners have no control.
Absolutely.
Miners can do a double spend if they get, you know, if they, you know, they can do a 10-minute double spend if they get control of the network. Yeah, whoopee-doo, well done. Like, that's it, yeah. The cost of doing that, by the way, would be obscene. So again,
yeah, of course.
You know, and again, I'm not claiming that Bitcoin is the immaculate conception or whatever. You know, Bitcoin has its other things. It's, again, I just come back to it and go, there's nowhere else that I personally, based on kind of the points I mentioned, I'm prepared to place my net worth.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well,
and I wish there was. Trust me, I wish I could go, you know, fucking, there's, you know, I can
not have just one.
Somewhat hedge, you know, but there is nothing.
Right. So potentially for you though, a project like, let's say Ethereum Classic, right? Who's sticking with proof of work.
I actually supported it. I put all my mining power in it. Another great financial decision. Oh, hang on, no.
Right.
I don't have a mine anymore.
that theoretically could become a project that matches your 5, right?
No, but because the simple fact of the matter is that it's born of the fundamental problem with Ethereum. So in other words, you know, for those who are not in, you know, into the history and whatever the reasons for the fork, whether you agree or, you know, the DAO hack and all of that, simple truth of the matter is that Ethereum was Ethereum Classic.
Sure.
Ethereum branched off, and there's no reason to believe that if it's possible, then Ethereum or Ethereum Classic it is today could also not just branch off.
Got it. So it's the fact that it's more possible because it has a history of having had a fork like that, that would bother you more than kind of Bitcoin's history of not doing that.
I mean, there are thousands of Bitcoin forks. Again, you know, like,
sure,
basically everything is a fork of Bitcoin at some level.
Of course.
But the point I'm talking about is monetary policy. So, and again, when you come down to that, you come down to this concept of, you know, so kind of all of these things you hear maxis yap on about, you know, immutability and decentralization, all this stuff are layered under these things. Yeah. So,
right.
So I cannot put my net worth at risk that somebody in some fucking shit chain, be that the Euro, be that Ethereum, be that Ethereum Classic or BitConnect, decides to roll back the chain and undo me.
Right.
Why would I take that risk?
No, I get it. Totally get it. I guess I think you're kind of at a place where even if something, I mean, the only way someone could launch something that would fit your criteria would be if it was radically decentralized, right? Where it was released without provision to change it, because it would be a hard road for you to even think about something else in any significant way.
I'm not arguing against there's a better thing to proof of work, okay? But for my criteria, proof of stake is just a no.
Sure.
Okay. So, you know, maybe there's some, you know, genius sitting in a garage, and hopefully there is, and there always is, who's going to come up with a better mechanism of decentralization than proof of work. I'll be all over that.
Sure.
Yeah. But right now, if it's not proof, you know, simply breaking down my criteria, which are kind of high level, I can immediately rule out anything proof of stake as fitting my requirement for money.
Yeah.
Are you? That's my requirement. It's a free world.
Absolutely.
People can have their other requirements, but I'm just trying to explain that behind all of this Twitter nonsense of, you know, I'm a Bitcoiner. I've been a Bitcoiner for 12 fucking years. You know, I mean, I don't just eat grass-fed beef, you know, and all this kind of horseshit. Yeah. Like, you know, to be fair, I don't eat much else, but that's a different thing. I'm not known for my vegetable consumption, but like that predates Bitcoin. Okay.
Yeah. Right. You know, when you started off, you talked about the politics of Bitcoin being attractive to you, and I think it was primarily oriented to the separation of state and money.
Yeah.
Do you also have kind of a libertarian bent to you in general, or is it just related to kind of the financial idea that it needs to be separate and independent?
I mean, I don't know, libertarian, or we used to call them anarchists or whatever. I'm really against this kind of idea of group identities. I think it's a huge problem in the world. Okay, I am definitely pro minimal government. There's places government have to be involved, and there's places they shouldn't be involved. For example, the bedroom. Yeah, I don't care if you're gay, lesbian, transsexual. What the fuck is the government telling you whether or not you can get married to somebody? It makes no sense. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I don't know if that makes me libertarian or whatever, but yeah, I'd be very much, my political views are very much focused around the individual rather than the group. I do believe, strange enough, in the safety net system. I think that if there is a caring society, we can only let people fall so far.
Yeah.
And I think if we don't, we're just fucking apes.
That's true. That's
You're
true.
not bored ones. Not bored ones.
Now,
That's an interesting process. Yeah.
what NFTs have gotten your attention?
Okay, so I'm on the anal OS thing, okay, or Solana, whatever they call it these days.
Really?
Yeah, but because this is the other thing about
Okay,
my,
wait.
Uh-oh.
is that not everything needs to be decentralized.
That's a good point.
Most thing in the world, my bar doesn't work decentralized. It just fucking doesn't. My shop doesn't work decentralized. Yeah, my profile picture doesn't need to be decentralized. Okay, there's, it's not like I'm not like at this kind of Jesus Christ, I can't go to my bar because it's centralized. What fucking madness is this? Yeah, certain things have an absolute requirement for decentralization. And most of the shit in the world doesn't need. In fact, decentralization will be bad. So, again, I like political decentralization. I think the EU is a fucking joke. I think trying to centralize countries that have been at each other's throats for 5,000 years is a mistake. Bloody. Okay, that doesn't mean that I want a country out of my own house, but I would like something less centralized, a lot more community focused. But most shit in the world doesn't need to be decentralized. Like, people laugh at me and they go, "Oh, you're Bitcoin Maxi and you trade on a centralized exchange." I go, "Yeah, I don't have a fucking problem with that. Why would I? I can take it off and take custody if I want to." Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm aware of the risks. I'm a big boy.
Yeah, absolutely. I still never thought I'd hear the word Solana come out of your mouth, though. But I mean, that is the blockchain that has to be rebooted, buddy.
I'll tell you why. Okay, the pure trader in me is, I'm going, look at the S. Okay, so this is not a critique of S. Okay,
Gotcha.
Look at the S coin Bitcoin chart, the S Bitcoin chart, and tell me if you honestly believe that's going to outperform Bitcoin in the next cycle, because it didn't this one. And to me, from purely a pricing point of view, we printed a lower high this cycle. I expect a lower high next cycle, and I think Sol has another cycle in it before it too gets flushed down the toilet. But the reason for Sol was not kind of really just a couple of friends I have who are in the NFT space. And again, I want to make it clear, okay? I'm trying to figure it out.
Sure.
Okay, and the way I figure things out is by playing a bit. So I threw a bit of chewing gum money into it, and kind of went, I'm pretty sure, and the Bored Ape Yacht Club thing and this whole white power thing has me fascinated, not because I support white power, which I absolutely don't, but because of the subtlety of what's going on in the ecosystem there is actually quite fascinating to me. It's a bit Da Vinci Code-esque.
Nice.
So,
nice.
I look at something if I've got a few quid in it. Yeah. So I have a few quid in NFTs. Certainly not. As soon as I bought them, I have an absolute 100% belief they're going fucking zero. I'm okay with that. It's me
trying it out.
It's me, trying it out and going like, is there really something here or not? So, it's kind of chewing gum money.
No, that makes sense. I just felt like I needed to find something to bust your chops about. So,
Solana.
NOS, you have it now, man.
So wait a minute. You sent me some screenshots.
Okay, so like in preparation for this, not that there's obviously any preparation, but in thinking about it, okay, I tried to figure out what the fuck DeFi is. Okay, I don't mean that as an insult. What
it's all good.
Okay, what are the DeFi functions here? The DeFi functions, as I understand them, and feel free to prove me wrong, decentralize so that it is free and fair access to everybody. Yeah.
Right.
Cool. I'm all for that. I don't think you got there. We can argue things decentralized, but again, for me, proof of stake means no. But anyway, that's just my view.
Gotcha.
And then ultimately, you have the ability to earn yield from whatever assets you have, and you have the ability to use your assets to as collateral to get a loan. Yeah.
Yep.
And you can put that in a feedback loop, and you end up where we ended up, and that could be on Bitcoin or anything. That's human greed. That's nothing to do with the underlying assets. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what I decided to do then was just to for my own entertainment is yesterday I kind of wrote a little algo that where you stake a little bit of Bitcoin, okay, and you can yield, in this case, USDT. I fucking hate it, but like it was just a little experiment still running actually. And so my stake of whatever it is, X Bitcoin, is generating me some USDT. And I'm going, okay, so I'm trying to understand this whole thing. Now, I'm a market participant here, so like there's risk.
Wait, you were staking where though?
On a centralized exchange.
Oh, okay, okay. So just one of the things that they offer.
So the point is I'm trying to understand the terminology again practically, yeah?
Got it.
I staked, I don't know what the fuck you call that. To me, again, staked it and I put it into an algo that's generating me yield. And that yield is USDT. You know, it could be Ethereum, it could be, you know, bread maker coin, it could be anything.
Okay.
Okay. And so, and what I'm trying what I'm trying to do by doing this is to demonstrate one simple thing is there's only two ways that you can generate yield. Okay. You are like this silly little algo here I wrote yesterday. You are a market participant and you're taking risk. Yeah. That can generate yield. Or you inflate the asset.
Sure. Makes sense.
And I think that's something that is not clear to people.
Got it.
Or certainly from my 1,000-yard view. And I watch you guys every day, and if I can't watch it live, I'll always watch it in the evening. So I'm like, I have a genuine interest. So I was kind of going, I can just rejig one of my algos and change the names and go, look, I'm staking asset X and I'm generating asset Y. Okay. And that to me is how I generate yield from my stack. Yeah.
Right.
The other way I can do it is I can just make bread maker coin. Okay. Get people to stake it and inflate the supply and hope that the demand, okay, for the inflated supply outstrips the inflation.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's what we've been dealing with all along in DeFi, right?
Yeah. And again, I think that what we're seeing here is very simple. That's perfect in a bull market, yeah. But
sure.
You know, crypto is going down about 70% of the time. Believe it or believe it not. If you look at the charts and measure downtime versus uptime, it's going down 70% of the time. So I think that's going to be these kind of yield, inflationary based yields are very dangerous to the ecosystem, whether that's some twat like Do Kwon or anything else, where you're simply, because the demand almost requires a bull market.
Yep.
And what we're seeing is, and again, I want to be clear, I'm not blaming UST or Luna or 3AC or any of these things for what's happening to the price of the market. They happened because the price of the market. They're symptoms, not, in my opinion, they're symptoms, not the cause.
Right.
You know,
totally
you
agree.
are for any market, and guess the news, you know, you keep blowing into the bubble and at some point it pops.
Absolutely.
So again, you know, if there is to be, in my terminology, real DeFi, then it has to be some ridiculous thing like this that is actually an active market participant rather than purely inflationary based, because at some point demand will always contract.
Yep. Well, and I think at the end of the day, the collapse of anything like that is just another example of what we were talking about earlier in the market is this is somebody's taking money from somebody else, and the people who got in early and got out early are taking money from the people who stayed in longer, right? Because at the end of the day, the inflation is going to always kill the ones who stay in the longest.
Yeah, but my concern here is not whether I make money by crushing UST or lose money or whatever. My point is that if we go back to something a bit more basic and say, we can agree, I believe, that the open access to yield, if somebody wants it, to loans if somebody wants it, whether you're in Aleppo or Ohio, is a really fantastic objective.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm all for that. I think, and again, back to separating, because the separation of state and money isn't about my first world lifestyle and my Bitcoin fucking citadel, for God's sake. It's meaningless to me. It's about people, the Indias and the Chinas and so on. And that's ultimately how we went. And yeah, I want to make a fuck ton of money doing that. But anyway, that's a different matter.
Sure.
Okay. But the issue that we have is that you cannot, hand on heart, go to any of these places and say that this kind of inflationary DeFi for the kid in Aleppo is where they should put their money.
No, you're right.
And it fails.
Yep. Totally
and
agree.
That's the way I look at it. And I do hope there's a solution. But again, I have some fundamental issues again on just the base layer. And secondly, the Ponzi-onomics of it, as I call them. And again, that's not meant to be, these are
look,
shitcoin and Ponzi. Like,
people in the industry call it Ponzi.
I say the same thing about the euro and the dollar. Okay, so it's not me picking on, and anything else. I'm just going and if DeFi and crypto were to have a real place in the real world, rather than people like us clicking buttons trying to steal money from each other, that's just not acceptable.
Yeah,
that's a no-go.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll jump in here, Shaun. Hey, great to talk to you finally, man. I've read so much and been entertained so much by watching your exchanges with people in the material indicators chat. It's a pleasure. I think you hit on something that's always nagged me from day one, and it's that it seems like all of these models paying yield, that the only way they get it is, well, two ways. One, they have to go get it from another protocol. So you have to be in that ever increasing yield category where there's somebody with incentives to pay yield on, so some investment money or something to that effect, or they reward with the native token, and which then becomes something that's just sold and dumped. And so you get deflationary pressure there. So there hasn't been, to me, somehow that yield has to come from some type of commerce being generated or some type of activity that's organic to that protocol, or something unique in patching together multiple things so that you are actually creating value rather than just, like the VCs and spending marketing dollars. So sorry, Joe.
No,
go, please.
This is a thought experiment for people in DeFi and potentially $1 trillion idea. Please take it. Okay. Okay. So if I take the kind of promises of the last bull cycle, and I go, okay, why don't I set up Shaun's version of Amazon? Okay, and I go to the bread maker, and I go, instead of buy, it just says stake, and I can have this bread maker for free plus my stake back in 17 days. Because if this is real, I should be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Or I should be able to go to my local bar and go before paying for anything. I go, look, I want to stake X, and your return is going to be greater than my ability to drink for the next 6 hours. Okay. So when I come to check out, okay, I get my stake back. Because if any of this is true,
that's great.
This is possible.
Yeah.
And if it is true and you want adoption, trust me. Okay, you do that version of Amazon and every fucker in your country and my country is going to go, oh, great, I just have to stake something for X time and I get the toaster for free.
That's awesome. That's an amazing
There is my
point.
$1 trillion idea. Run with it, somebody.
But well, look, I mean, I think inherent in the concept is if the staking is sustainable, if the financial system can sustain that, then that should be doable, as you're saying, right? It should be doable that nothing should cost anything because the use of my money is all it should cost, and then I get my money back from it, right? Which actually is somewhat similar to kind of the alchemix model. I'm not going to climb into that right now, but
I actually looked at them last week.
yeah. But what's really
skeptical, to be honest, Brad. Okay.
What's that?
I was slightly skeptical when I read it.
Yeah, well, and now it's like 10,000 years to pay it back because everything's in this shit. But the interesting thing is something I've thought about a lot is I think that the convergence of potential DeFi things that work and function well and are tied to commerce and society and artificial intelligence and what's going to be happening in the world in terms of how interactions occur between businesses and marketing and selling and buying and selling items. I often wonder if we reach a point where money as we see it today, and I don't mean US dollars versus Bitcoin or anything else, but the idea of exchanging it for something else eventually gets wiped out because we reach a point where the meaning of it and the value of it is not what it is today, and the working for it is not what it is today. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, no, I mean, to me, that's a very dystopian view. That is, the central bank digital currencies. It's you know why I think that the world is in trouble, and I can break this down into something really simple and tangible. Because to people of my son's generation, owning a house has become aspirational.
Yep,
something
absolutely
fundamentally fucked up about a world where owning a house is aspirational.
Yep.
And
well,
so
it's
again, that's another reason for me to bet outside of traditional markets.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you said that you thought of that concept as dystopian. I'm wondering if it's actually ends up being a positive, that money is not.
I think people not having to work and getting an AI to do it for them is a dystopian future.
No, I get it, and
I read all that shit as a kid. Yeah.
But I wonder if the work becomes different, if the work becomes things that advance us. I'm not saying we should. I'm just saying if that happens inevitably anyway.
Most of my kind of suit and tie career back when I was jumping on planes trying to shill money out of oil companies was based around automation. Yeah. And if you actually and everybody's afraid of automation and so on. And again, I was, back in the late 80s and so on, that's kind of what I did for a living. And actually, if you look at it, automation creates more human productivity. So there are more people involved, believe it or believe it not, okay, who are more productive because of this automation. So I'm not sitting here thinking that, nobody's going to have to, I think we do different work.
Sure. Well, that's what I meant. Yeah. I think the work changes. I think the nature and concept of work changes. And I don't think of it as a state-based thing or a central currency-based thing. I think it more of the meaning of money changes because the need for it becomes less. If, like you were saying, things like staking what you have earns you what you need to buy and earn, or.
But to me, again, that model is so unproven.
Of course,
you either do like my silly algo there, which is taking risk, okay, or you're taking a bet on the demand, the self-inflationary asset, the demand, whether that's created through hype or whether that's created through real-world commerce, outstripping the increase in supply.
Yeah.
And to date, that's a hurdle we've only ever jumped across in a bull market, and in a bull market, it's meaningless.
And you can't have a never-ending bull market.
You can't have a never-ending bull market.
Chuck says that's the end game of a reputation economy, a potlatch system. That ecosystem means the most giving, productive people are the ones who are the most rewarded. It makes people behave the way they are supposed to. So anyway,
Maybe.
So I want to dive now that we've gone down that strange philosophical discussion that I took us towards. I want to dive into more practical what you do every day. Right? Because
when I'm not in the bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, first of all,
down, man.
I had a couple of surprises, and it's probably because I just haven't been paying attention. I knew you ran algos all day that traded thousands of trades all day, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't realize you were doing that on behalf of funds, Bitcoin funds.
I do it. That's not kind of my main thing. I fucking hate funds. Like, they're listening. Fuck you, yeah. And I mean that sincerely. Okay. Yeah. I was asked a few years ago would I run some of my silly algos for funds, and I went, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, I mean, you pay me a percentage of profit. I don't give a shit. Yeah, I don't take custody of your money.
Sure.
I'd be fairly harsh to deal with if you're a fund, because I refuse to trade anything other than Bitcoin.
Right.
Because that's what my algos do. So, you know, it's an interesting thing, and it's just something I do. You know, it's not a large part of what I do, but
sure,
but I do it. Yeah.
But in terms of how you trade, I know you test and experiment with a lot of different strategies, and we've talked about that in the material indicators telegram, but is there kind of like core concepts of how you're trading? I know you think of it as kind of market making, but can you kind of explain for people kind of what you're doing?
My fundamental approach to the markets is no self-harm. Okay. So I trade only derivatives, okay, which are a dangerous animal. I trade only leverage. And if my leverage goes above 0.25, because, you know, guess the news, kids, you can have leverage less than 1. then that's it. I focus on exchanges and contracts that offer me an edge. Okay?
Nice.
So, for example, there are exchanges that will pay everybody maker fees. There are contracts that you know, for the same asset that are more rewarding, and so on. And then in terms of the types of algos I run, you know, at any time there's 10 to 12 in production, and there's, you know, X, including that silly thing where I just kind of called it staking and yield for, I don't know why. You know, there's at least another 5, 6, 10 that are in test.
Nice. And so you're constantly adapting.
I'm not, just to be clear, anybody in algos, I don't like, you know, I'm not, you know, taking how should I say it? I'm not taking, you know, trading view indicators and strategies and doing that. This is all, I guess, what passes for high frequency. So I'll be, you know, analyzing order flow, or I have kind of a mathematical model of price movement capability, which is a strange way to look at the market. So in other words, I have a kind of a very much statistically driven look at how far can Bitcoin actually move in 5 minutes before it does a retrace. What is that? What are the extremes? And if I can cover those extremes in my algos, then I can print profit, and so on. So my approach is not predictive. So none of my algos that I run are trying to predict price direction.
Okay, got it.
They have directional exposure, but they're not trying to go, oh, you know, we're going to pump up to 32,000 here, and so on and so on. They're literally hoovering pennies constantly.
Wow, that's awesome.
What I do, I mean, my own personal position, just from, you know, anybody. I mean, I'm spot long since the dawn of fucking time in Bitcoin, and I only trade short against that. So nice. Other than my algo crap that can be long, short, doing whatever the fuck it does, my basic philosophy on trading Bitcoin is that I'm always net long. So, and that's spot, and that's off exchange, and HOODL, and, you know, your keys, not your fucking Bitcoin, all that kind of bullshit. Because again, I heard you guys discuss it. Stay around long enough, some exchange is going to steal your money.
Sure.
That's a fact. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know, Quadriga, you know, you don't have to go on. And I trade against that position. And I trade swap contracts, or, you know, coin margin, as all the cool kids call them. So I am one of these people that as the price is rising, I'm building a short position, and as the price is falling, and I'm unwinding it, and that's manual. So in perspective, for this end of this cycle, I've got 3 shorts. One is mid 60s, one kind of mid 40s, and smaller one around low 40s.
Nice.
And I will hold these. In fact, I will never fully close them.
Wow.
But I'm not closing any of my short positions at the minute. I am expecting a kind of a relief bounce here or sideways. If we go sideways for a few months, then I'll think the bottom is in and start to take some profit. But I am expecting kind of a relief rally, and maybe towards the end of the year.
I've got your chart open.
Yeah, no, again, this is pure guesswork. If anybody thinks I know what the fuck I'm talking about, they haven't listened to me. But this is pretty much kind of been my plan on the market since kind of late last year. Exact levels changing and so on, but I very much kind of see that we do. I think we have 2 options here. You could call this the bottom of the market, and I wouldn't rule that out. 200 weekly moving average and all of that.
Right.
It's historically very strong support. If it is, then if you look at the history of Bitcoin, we're going to have to do 3 to 6 months of accumulation in a range. So classic kind of L-shaped recovery.
Right.
Okay. I don't expect that. I think that we will do a kind of bear market rally here, and then do one more leg down, and then go L-shaped. But what I do know is that we need time. We need a substantial time to accumulate in the 3 to 6 month range. So again, when I talk about my manual trades, I am talking about positions I will hold for years or months, depending on the market, but half a year to a year, 2 years cycles. And I will not be closing any of my shorts, which are hedges against my long. Okay, just to be clear. Okay, until I see accumulation in the month's time frame.
Okay.
So I don't think this is over. If it is over, the market will tell us in the next 2 to 3 months, and it'll fuck around and go sideways and whatever. But it, we've never had a bottom. Even the COVID crash that everybody, the V shape. If you look to the right of that, all that you see is accumulation.
Right.
Yeah. So I think the art of the game here, if you're kind of looking to look, in my opinion, and Jesus, this is not financial advice at all, but my very simplistic view of the market is that if you don't see accumulation over an extended period, the bottom isn't in.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes total sense. I find it really interesting that you have these very long-term approaches to the market, while all day long you have thousands of trades doing these incredibly short-term.
Yeah. I gave up. Now I'm going to have to start blaming a few people. I won't name them, but I gave up. Fuck it, maybe I will. I gave up scalping. These kind of intraday or short time frame things, and most of my trades are sub-second. In terms of volume of trades and so on. And if you can develop an algo strategy, like it does it 24 hours a day, it does it faster, it doesn't do the emotions and blah blah blah. Okay, but what algos are really shit at, in my opinion, is longer term price forecasting. So I do these longer term, swing again, half year cycle long trades that are based on my own analysis of the market. And then I recently started scalping again. Yeah, because I'm an idiot. But because myself and a few friends.
Because you don't want to sleep.
Yeah, I'll sleep on a dead, as they say. We were discussing techniques of scalping and so on. And so we developed this little scalping strategy, which is actually really cool. And again, involves no real harm. So there's kind of, 2 or 3 of us who are playing around with that. And like crack cocaine, it's difficult to give up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just wish I'd never started again.
That's what they always say. Yeah, that's fascinating. That I'm so fascinated by these fast trade algorithms that you do. And I know that you've talked about the fact that you're constantly dumping algos and that they do stop working for you over time. Yeah. How long do you think you ride on a set of particular algos? How long do they typically last for you?
I don't have a straight answer for that. I mean, there are some algos that are not great performing that can deal with pretty much any market condition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they don't produce, they don't produce a significant profit. But I mean, algos success will be based on market conditions. Yeah, now an algo that can handle that run up that you see in the middle of the chart is not necessarily the same algo that you want for the rundown that we're currently in.
Right.
So, this idea of, one algo to rule them all, I think, yes, you can create it, but I think it's going to be suboptimal.
Yeah, it's not going to optimize for the conditions. Like what you're saying is there are algos that work great when we're running up, and algos sideways and algos down.
Or even if you go into more detail, if you have an algo and that looks at slippage and liquidations and so on, and again, they can be pretty cool high frequency signals. This move down has been remarkably controlled. Like, I know it doesn't look like it, but like we have not done any harm. This is a controlled exit for me. And I know if you look at the weekly candles, but if you look at it in lower time frames, and so again, if an algo that would have worked in the November 2018 dump or the COVID dump is not optimal for the way people are exiting this market right now. It's incredibly civilized.
Wow,
and I know
that's interesting.
That when you wake up, in a week and your net worth is down 50%, and you're going, but if you look at it in detail, it's very civilized.
That's interesting. Is your son trading like you trade?
My son is a shitcoiner. He hasn't grown up yet. So you're Peter Schiff, and he's no. I mean, he does some shitcoinery, but he is like we develop the algos together and so on.
Nice.
So he does his shitcoinery to get more sats, as they say.
That's awesome.
And he kind of handles all the NFT stuff because I just can't fucking use Discord, man. Like, it just annoys me. I'm that old.
Oh, it annoys the hell out of me.
Apparently, you have to do Discord in that world, and
it's such a pain in the ass.
I get a headache just from looking at it.
It's such a garbage UI. It's just the worst. It's garbage. I have to use it, so I do, but it's painful. Shaun, I got to tell you, I love the insights for why you are the way you are in terms of Bitcoin. And
no, that's just my view of the market, dude. I'm the way I am. That blame my parents.
No, but I thoroughly appreciate that you have this criteria and that you have a guidance for that helps you make decisions about where you want your money earned for your productivity to be and how you want it to be kept and to gain or lose. And I think that makes a ton of sense, and it's going to make it more difficult for me to get, to really troll the hell out of you in the future because it's too rational.
I'll troll away, man. I enjoy it. You know that shit.
Nah, just kidding.
I don't take any of it seriously. Like there's a few people in the MI group, which is I'm just going to say, by the way, you guys passed 7,000 members, and I've been around all the groups, and again, I'm not a shareholder in you guys. I'm just a fucking punter, and it is, in my opinion, the best place to get rational advice. Just ignore me. There's a lot of great traders and analysts in there.
Don't ignore him. Listen to him and listen to there are a ton of brilliant people in that Telegram group. I mean, and for everybody listening, I'll put the link in the show notes. But we started from the beginning and we set really strict rules, and then everybody in the community started enforcing them because they wanted the level of the conversation to happen. So it's not really. I mean, I think it's something we've done, but I really think a lot of it has to do with the early people that came in like you, who kind of set the tone for how we were going to like all interact and be a community together. And I think that's made a huge difference in the reason people stay around, and the reason it grows is because the caliber of the advice and analysis and people that are there, and there's no shilling, there's no stupidity, or if there is, it gets banned immediately. So it's good stuff. Veronica would like to see your mug, not your face. Okay.
Okay, how maxi is that shit?
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Shaun, I appreciate your time. I want to do this again with you, man. I think we'll just have you come in and do market analysis every now and then if you like.
Dude, I have nothing better to do with my life. I'm either at a bar or at the computer. So,
you know, what would be really fun is to have Shaun conduct a couple of interviews with some of the DeFi protocols that want to come on.
Oh, that would be fun. A guest interrogator.
Not the greatest idea, Brad.
No, I can
never come back.
I'll buy them as much beer as they want, and we can do it privately. Yeah.
Veronica said elbow cough. No, because I get shilled shit all the time in Twitter DMs from just like lousy projects. It would be hilarious to have you seriously interview one, especially the ones I know haven't ever watched the show and tell me how great it is. That's the really good ones. So, Shaun, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. I want to do this again with you because I think it would be. Veronica said, yes, please. Shaun will make protocol founders cry. Not kidding. Laughing out loud. We could do a whole show where Shaun
just say, like, I fucking love the show. You know my opinions on the space. I do watch it every day live if I'm around, and I always watch it. So.
That's just because you want somebody to yell at for an hour every day, I'm sure.
You know, I have children for that. I don't need
that. All right. We love you, Shaun. Thanks for coming on, man. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Shaun.
Guys.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was awesome, man.
That's good to put a face with a name, man.
Dude, he's such a good guy. He's such a good guy. I always have enjoyed engaging with him, and he's just a good person. You know, got his standards, what he does, and why he wants to do it. I noted down his 5 criteria. I'm going to put those in the show notes because I think they're, you know, he's right. I mean, the reason he wanted to come on the show today was to give us a sense of how he thinks about it and why he is a Bitcoin maximalist, because he has a set of criteria, you know, and for so many people, it just becomes religious. And he's approaching it from an analytical and a logical perspective. He's like, I'll look at anything, and if it hits my 5 criteria, I'm putting my money in it. Well, that to me is fantastic, right?
Well,
it's a division between the believers versus people who are looking at things analytically for their own point of view.
But his most important one, which is probably the one of all of it, is can you change the rules or not?
Yeah, and that's a fair rule. That's a fair guidance.
And I never thought about it because it does cross across every other asset class, not just crypto.
Totally.
Super great guy. I'd love to sit back and nail back a few beers with him.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to get out there sometime and do that because
sunny Dublin.
Good people. Veronica, thank you for joining us today and participating, and love seeing you around. Thanks for coming by. Chuck and Eamon, great to talk to you guys as well. Really appreciate everyone listening. If you're listening on the Apple Podcast later today, please rate and review us and subscribe. It helps us get more viewers. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, click the little bell so you get alerts when we have a new episode come out, and we appreciate your comments and thoughts in the comments on the videos. If you have any thoughts or ideas or topics for the show you'd like to hear, you can always message me. DMs are open on Twitter, B05Crypto, same on Telegram, and B05Crypto #2143 on the Piece of Shit Discord application. So always happy to hear from you. If your thoughts, you have criticisms, you have ideas, you have topics, you have people we should interview, we're open to it. Bitcoin maxis, Ethereum maxis, protocol developers, we don't care. No coiners won't come on, Joe. I keep asking them. They won't come on. So
they're in a different channel.
Yeah, I guess so.
They're over in like the shopping network, right? They're buying like flowered colored wicker handbags or something like that. So
that's it. All right, I'm out of here, buddy. Have a great day.
All right, me too, man. Good show. Long and good.
Care.
All right, man.
Yeah,
Talk to you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good luck. All right. Bye, everyone.